So welcome to this is our fourth week, and I'd love to hear how everybody's doing, and specifically, I'll pull this PowerPoint up. Specifically, maybe about what our topic was last week, if we can give a little update for those of you who were there. This week, we're going to talk about. I've stolen this concept of the one thing. It's from a book. It's a business book. It talks about planning and goal setting. And it takes a little bit different approach in saying we should focus on one thing at a time. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. So just a reminder, I'm James Gerke. I'm the owner. I look at myself as the custodian of the Camino for Good app. And I've been doing that for the last year now. And we hope to be doing little segments like these all throughout the year on different topics. So my background is in leadership development. So I have 20, 30 years now teaching leadership development to companies. I discovered the Camino de Santiago in 2009. This is a younger version of me. I was doing it on a bicycle on the northern route because I didn't have time to walk it at the time, but I've been back several times and walked different segments, and my wife and I have now completed three pilgrimages together. We've done the Francés, the Portuguese, and last year, just in October, we did the Via Francigena, which is the Italian route from the Alps down to Rome. So we hope to add all these routes to the Camino for Good app so you can enjoy them virtually as well. So as I mentioned, we're doing this because it's a threshold of a new year. Where I've talked about this before. I have my little calendar on my desk. If you can see that, it's a far side calendar. Each day, I love to turn that page off, and I say one more day, and I get my little chuckle from the calendar, and I enjoy doing that. But it's really a new year. I think should be more than just a page turn. It's a threshold. It's a new opportunity, a new beginning. And that's the way we wanted to. That's why we wanted to focus this month on setting a new course, trying to have a little direction to our life, not just letting the winds blow us wherever they may be. So I see this journey as a journey of heart, might, mind, and strength. It's a scripture that comes out from Luke. I like it a lot because I think pilgrimage, for those of us who have walked the Camino de Santiago or any other long distance pilgrimage routes, we know that you have to have an open heart. You certainly use your might or your strength, but you have to have an open mind to what comes as well. So I see it really as a combination of the physical strength and endurance that it takes to do a Camino, but also the openness of mind and the openness of heart and the effort that comes with all three of those. And it's the combination of those things, I think, where enlightenment comes. So our topic last week was headwinds. We talked about things that might get in your way of your work, your education, your relationships, any leisure activities you're doing, or personal growth, spiritual growth that might get in the way from reaching your objectives or living your intentions fully. So I'm going to stop sharing there and just ask. I'm not sure how many. I think Julie and Judy, you were both on last week, I believe.
Yes.
Have you had much of a chance to thought that as you're walking, and maybe experience walking, and any thoughts you have about headwinds or obstacles that get in the way from reaching your goals?
Yes, I thought about it a lot. I love this quote. If a person doesn't know which port they sail, no wind is favorable.
Oh,
And so
good.
I guess that's really what we're doing, isn't it?
Hmm.
Finding out what port we're heading to. So I found it really helpful to think about it this week and then do my homework last night. And really, the only thing that's holding me back is self-esteem. you know, um, I found, yeah, in thinking about what's holding me back, I thought I'm too critical of myself and I focus too much on failures, mistakes, and regrets. So that's what I've got to work on. I'm really glad that I know this because, you just live your life and do what you do, and you don't really think about why
Mm-hmm.
and why you can't do what you want to. So I found it really helpful.
Excellent. Thank you, Judy. I can really relate to that. What you said is sometimes we're our own worst critics, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's easy to focus on um, our failures or where we feel like we've fallen short in some way, rather than focusing on all the positive things that we do. Thank
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you. Julie, did you I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you want to share anything, you're welcome to, or Holly or Caitlin as well.
Thanks. Good morning, everybody. Sorry I missed last week. I look forward to the recording. I was kind of hoping to catch that, but I did read through that, and I know something I'm really working on is people pleasing. Is what stands in the way of me achieving, because I'm more concerned, or have been more concerned, about what other people think is right for me, or what fits for everyone in the big picture, and I put myself last. And so it's time for me to go, okay, well, those people are all doing well on their own now, my kids. So what is it that I really want? And making sure that my ego doesn't get in the way. So there's a balance there. So this is giving me time to contemplate, like, what is it I really, if I could do anything I wanted to, what is it? So I really appreciate the opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you, Julie. I have a
Mhm.
hard time saying no. I don't know if that's what I hear you saying a little bit, right? Yeah. Can't say no sometimes, and sometimes we have to, right, to make that space for things that are most important. Caitlin and Holly, I know you're both joining us, I think, for the first time, both of you, but if you have anything to add, we'd love to hear from you. Yeah. Caitlin?
Well, I don't want to give a long story or anything, but and I'm new to the group, but in the last year and a half, started a new business, and there's been no time for anything but that business. But the biggest thing that I found in all of that is every time someone walked into the business had the opportunity to shift, to pick up a different kind of wind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned actually contradicts that quote. I used to love that quote, but it contradicts it, because if I have already chosen my port, then the wind's influence I will be so focused on that port that I may actually miss where I'm meant to be going. And that's that sort of let go and let God, right? There's a real trust that I've developed in this last year and a half when I've realized, oh my goodness, I'm being guided. I just have to surrender to this guidance. So I won't choose my port. And as it is, I had to call the sign company within weeks of opening and say, you have to add and gallery to my sign. I was just going to be a shop, but I had so many artists come in that I completely shifted the wind of my sails. So it's a really exciting story in a way, and I can go on and on because it's been so incredible. But I wonder, and this is the place where I'm in, whether that quote is actually an old way of being and an old way of thinking. And we are now being called into a new way of thinking, and that we really do have to trust. We have to trust where that wind is going to direct us, because we do not actually know the port that God wants us to end up in, which I call God the divine, but that is what I've learned. I do not know what the divine wants of me, but I am listening, and I'm allowing those breezes to blow me in the right direction.
Thank you very much.
Well, y'all are all very amazing. I agree. I agree 100% with everything everybody has said. I'm one of those. It's not being people pleasing. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
wow, cool.
That's great. Thank you, Holly. Caitlin, that's really interesting. So it brings up some thoughts to mind. So I'm obviously, when I started this, is saying, let's set new directions for the year. Let's make sure that we have some goals. Let's make sure we have some focus, right? Yeah, let's go back to a Camino analogy. So we all have a focus. We're following those arrows. We're walking to the Camino to Santiago. Yet I alluded to this a little bit, although I didn't say it as well as you did. We have to walk with an open heart and an open mind, because on that journey, we don't know who we're going to encounter, what challenge we're going to face, how we're going to overcome it. Um, I, I it's just like what may happen happens, right? We were on the Via Francigena last year, and some of you who followed us know that we did this on bicycle. So for you pure walkers, we cheat sometimes. We want to cover a little bit more ground in a little less time. So we ride bikes, and there was one morning, it was about a week into it. We're riding along, coming into a town. Everything was normal, right? We were focused on where we were going for the day. We had our plan. Angela was in front of me. So if you can imagine this, I wish I had my GoPro on at the time. I did not. I'm behind her about 20 feet. We're entering a town, so there's cars parked along the side, which we're going along, and faster than, I mean, it happened so fast. In an instant, the door opened. She hit that. Bam.
Oh,
She hit it, and I saw her just collapse over the door and fall back. And suddenly everything changed in a moment, right? Our plans changed. Our direction changed, and interesting enough, I was quite. Angela would say, I dropped a few choice words. I probably did. I didn't mean to, but the lady got out of the car. I couldn't. I'm like, why? How could you not see, or why didn't you look? And she hadn't just pulled in, or she wasn't just get in the car to leave. She must have been sitting there for a while, because nothing was moving as we approached it. And I had to reset my mind. So Caitlin, that's what comes to mind. Everything changed in the moment. And interestingly enough, we had a nice day. Thankfully, she wasn't injured. She had some pretty bad bruises. The lady that opened the door was so sweet, so nice. Her son came out with it was funny, brought Twinkies out to her, Twinkies and a drink, to make sure she was feeling all right. But what could have been a normal day suddenly changed, and what could have been what I started to react to negatively, I pulled back. Angela said to me, she says, as she laid there on the ground, getting angry isn't helping anything. So I pulled back, and I had to say, open my mind, open my heart. Let's just accept what's happening here. And actually it turned out to be kind of a nice experience in the end, even though I'm sure her pain wasn't nice, right? So I like that. You have to be open to what may be, right? We don't know.
yeah.
So thank you that's a different take on the way I would have looked at this originally, but thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to, let's move forward a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit today about setting goals, or focusing on
To do one thing.
the one thing, right? So this quote, I don't know if you can see it, that's on a rock. The quickest way to do many things is to do one thing at the time, one thing at a time, right? And I think that's the focus of what I'd like to emphasize today. How many of you have heard this term before, SMART goals?
I have.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pull that down for a minute. What does the acronym stand for?
Specific,
Measurable.
measurable,
Accountable.
attainable.
Mhm.
Can't think what the R is now.
Time constrained. And what's
Time-
realistic?
Realistic. Okay,
Realistic.
so yeah, there's a lot of different ways I've seen this. This is the one I have here. I think it's the one I use in business most often. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant. That is what I like, rather than. So sometimes people say achievable and realistic, and I think, well, if it's achievable, it's going to be realistic. So I use achievable and relevant. It's relevant to, if we're working in a business, it's relevant to the business. If we're working on a partnership, it's relevant to the partnership. So it's relevant to what our overall vision is, and then it's time bound. Okay. So I'm going to throw something else out. This is the Camino for Good version of a SMART goal. And I'd like you to think about this. First of all, if what you might expect coming now is I'm going to say, set a SMART objective for your intentions. So if you have Caitlin, you said you have a business going, you might have SMART objectives for the business, for growth, for customer, for market share, for sales. It may be anything you have. If we are setting goals for losing weight, we might set a specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound goal for losing weight. And you may think that's where I'm going with this. I'd like you to think of this a little bit differently. This next slide I created, so it's not as pretty. But instead of SMART, let's look at the smallest, meaningful, actionable, repeatable thing or tactic. So what I'm asking you to think about is, what is the smallest thing you can do? So break it down to its atomic level. There's another book I like that's called Atomic Habits. And it talks about making a habit, but making it down to the smallest actionable item you can do. So you're thinking about something that's small, but it has to be meaningful. And meaningful would be that alignment somehow. It's aligned to our overall vision. It's something that's actionable. It's not just a desire that we have. It's something we can actually do. And it's repeatable. It's something that we just don't do once, check off the box and move on. What I'm alluding to here is that it becomes a habit. Right? And it's a thing, it's a tactic, it's something that we do. So think of it this way, is what I'm going to ask you to be thinking about this week are SMART objectives. Smallest, meaningful, actionable, repeatable things that you can do that would remove obstacles out of your path, that would help you achieve some of these larger visions that you have in your life. So, and when I'm talking about the smallest things, let me emphasize this. Small changes can have huge impact. So if this line is the status quo and we do a 1% improvement daily over a year, we have that equals up to a 37.78% improvement. So we've improved pretty drastically if we could just focus again on that small thing, but make it actionable, make it repeatable, make it a habit. Then we can have huge. The same thing goes true the other thing. And I do believe this. I believe that life is like an escalator. We're either going up or we're going down, but it's not very often we're standing still. A 1% decline over a year leads a pretty drastic decline. It almost leads to a zero. Okay. So here, oops, I'm going to have to stop this for a second. I'm going to show two videos and I have to reset my sound. So when I set these videos, please yell at me, show a sign if you're not getting the sound, okay? I think I have this set right, but just in case, let me know. So this is what I'm talking about when I say the one thing. And this is from the book that I've stolen this from. So I'm borrowing this from an author. And he uses this analogy from the movie City Slickers. Does anybody remember that movie?
Yes.
Kind of a fun movie. What was the gist of the movie? Do you remember?
Oh, they were going on a the city guys were going on a vacation out to become cowboys.
Yeah, it was like a dude ranch. They were going to go on a
Yeah.
cattle drive, right? Yeah. And it wasn't just a vacation. Oh, it was a vacation, but it was a midlife crisis that these guys are facing, especially the Billy Crystal character. He's facing a midlife crisis. And he's out there trying to find kind of like, what's life all about, right? His family, his life at home is struggling. His work is overbearing. He doesn't feel like he has meaning in life. Sounds like to me like why some of us go on Camino. So this is a scene taken from that. And do you remember the cattle hand, the Jack Perrins, I think is the actor's name that played it. So he was the rough and tough herd owner. So he's the guy that's driving the cattle. And this is the interaction between him and Billy Crystal's character. So again, if you can't hear this wave or something, so I know to stop it. Uh-oh. Hold on. There we go.
Do you know what the secret of life is?
No, what?
This.
Your finger?
One thing. Just one thing.
That's great, but what's the one thing?
That's what you gotta figure out.
Yeah. So I love that clip. So what I'm asking us to think about this is what is our one thing, or what is your one thing? So you've thought about intentions in different areas of your life. You've thought about some obstacles that get in the way of meeting those intentions. And now I'm talking about starting out small, but focusing our attention on one thing. And what would that one thing be that would have the biggest impact? Here's another way of looking at this. I'm just going to switch over to this video again. This is the way to look at the power of focusing on the right one thing at the right time. So shoot for the moon, but begin with the most important first step. And remember that 1% daily improvements has huge impact over time.
Everybody knows about playing with dominoes, but what you may not know is that a domino can knock over another domino which is about 1.5 times larger. So what I have here is a chain of dominoes. Each one is 1.5 times larger than the previous one. And the smallest domino is about 5 millimeters high and 1 millimeter thick. And I will carefully place it. And there are 13 dominoes. And the largest domino, it weighs about 100 pounds and is more than 1 meter tall. Ready? Boom. That was 13 dominoes. If I had 29 dominoes, the last domino would be as tall as the Empire State Building. Here we go.
Oh, it froze. Well, you're not going to be able to see the big climax there, but I love this concept that the small, let me go back to my acronym, right? So the smallest meaningful actions that we can repeat on a daily basis, the smallest tactic we can repeat on a daily basis over time has huge impact. It's like the dominoes. So this week, what I'm asking you to focus on is try to identify what that one thing is. So day 1 through 3, I'd like you to think of a strategy, action, goal. It's that SMART goal, right? The smallest, meaningful, actionable, repeatable thing that you can focus on for each of the targets. So you may focus on one area of your life, you may focus on 2 or 3, it doesn't matter, right? But consider what that thing is for each of those life targets that you've had. And think about things that may either diminish your weakness, or it could be magnifying and building on your strengths as well. And by the end of the week, what I'd like you to do is to try to narrow that down and ask yourself, what is that one thing that you can do now that will have the biggest impact in creating a life legacy that you dream about the most right now? So what is the one thing that's might be getting in your way or you have to do? So I'm going to use an example again. It's a silly one. I use it all the time because I think everybody at the beginning of the years, if you're like me, every year you say, I'm going to lose some weight. And so what do? So this is what I've done in the past. So I joined a club or a spa or membership somewhere. So I'm spending big bucks on that every month. And I say I'm going to go at 6 in the morning every day. And I'm going to work out on the treadmill for a half an hour. I'm going to lift some weights, and then I'm going to drink a liter of water, and I'm going to eat more protein. And I'm going to, a matter of fact, I think I better order some meals that I could have come in and prepare for me, so I eat more healthily and that I don't eat junk. And I'm going to cut out all candy and all ice cream and everything in my life. And that generally lasts about a week and a half, right? because it's too much, because our minds can't focus on all those things. So better to say, what is that smallest actionable thing, that one thing that I can do that would have the biggest impact? In time, it's like a domino. So if I make that a habit, the next domino falls. I can take on something larger. So it may be that I'm just going to walk, right? So I walk already, so I'm going to increase my mileage by 10% or 20%. And I just focus on that. And that will have an impact on my overall health. Or it could be, okay, so I'm going to cut out, rather than rechange my entire diet, I'm going to not eat refined sugars or something like that. But just focus on that one thing until it becomes a habit. The book, The One Thing, he talks about, or excuse me, from Atomic Habits. It's those smallest things that would have the impact on where we want to go. That's what we're trying to find, is what is that first domino, that first step. Okay? So that's what I'm asking you to do and think about as you walk this week. And when we come back next week, I'd be curious and asking some examples if anybody wants to share them. But do we have any questions, comments? Oh, Caitlin, what is my one thing? What is your one big thing such that you are so generous? Well, I'll tell you what, that's interesting. So I've spent a career, without going through my whole life story, right? I've spent a career developing people. So early on in my career, I was in sales marketing, sales operations, sales training. I did in sales management, and I realized what I liked most is to see people grow, to see people develop. So I went back and got a degree in leadership development, and I started teaching leaders how to be more impactful as leaders. And I've spent a good part of the last 20, 25 years doing that. And during that time, I also became very interested in pilgrimage, because pilgrimage changed my life. When I completed that, where I showed that picture of me on the Camino de Santiago, it changed my life. I was going through a very difficult time at home, eventually through a long separation and a divorce that was very painful to me. Walking the pilgrimage, the Camino de Santiago specifically, changed me. It gave me, it's like what you said, Caitlin. I had to open up my heart. I had to open up my mind and say, this isn't where I thought my life was going, but it's where, like you said, it's where God is leading me now, or where, let me put it this way. I'm not sure God meant for the divorce to happen. I'm not sure he meant for that, but it's where I was. And God accompanied me on that, and the Camino helped me find that peace. So I became very interested in it, went back and studied pilgrimage on a doctorate level. I'm just writing my thesis right now. And what I've really wanted to do is share the Camino spirit. I wanted to share that what I would say is a pilgrimage spirituality. It's a type of spirituality. It doesn't mean that, I belong to a church. Some of you may belong to a church, some of you may not belong to a church. It doesn't matter. It's a spirituality that I think that we find within ourselves as we experience the Camino. So my hope is just to share that. So I'm combining a little bit about my career, profession, and also my my love for the Camino. That's why I'm here. So if I had to say one thing I have to do now, is I have to write that thing and I have to finish it by March. So that's become my one thing every day until it's done. Sorry, that was too long. Anyone else that want to share? Okay. Yes, Caitlin, please.
Yeah, no, I just want to add that, I mean, it's been, I don't know when you first came out with the virtual Camino 2020, 2021, to support all the businesses alongside the trail. But I've been wanting to show up for this since that time. And I did that today. And I actually am touched and feel like I've accomplished a big one little thing today
Thank
for
you.
being
Good.
here. So thank you for this,
Oh,
what you're doing here.
glad to have you, and thanks for the founders of this organization. They founded it during the pandemic. People couldn't walk. The Alberkers were suffering, and they did a great work to help that. I think our focus has changed a little bit. We're not bringing in the huge revenue that was done during the pandemic. We can't help as many Alberkers out as we did before, but what I've tried to do is lower the price on it, try to make it more available to more people, and then we're going to try to do these kind of topics during the year to kind of bring that Camino spirit to more people. And in the meantime, we still hope to. We just identified an Alberker that caught fire, burned down, so we're seeing if we can do something to help them along the line as well. Anyone else? Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing. And I'm going to let you go for the day. And we will do the next week's meeting will be the same time. It'll be the same link. You're welcome to come and join on the same link as you did today. I will send out a link for the videos. I'll send the past. I'll send all of them out so you can link all of them. And hope to see you next week. Okay. So in the meantime, buen camino.
Thanks.
You're welcome, Holly. Thanks, Jennifer.